The guns in High on Life are one of the main features of the game, with them acting not only as a tool for taking down enemies from a distance, but also as companions that accompany you throughout your playthrough. But what if you decided you wanted to go the way of the Brexit geezer, and that all you need is your trusty knife? Can you beat High on Life using Only Knifey? Before we get into the challenge, here are the ground rules. I may only use weapon abilities when platforming. I can only shoot in puzzles where it is impossible to use the knife to complete it. If I, for any reason, damage an enemy with something other than the knife, I must reset to the latest checkpoint. With that out of the way, let's see if we can beat High on Life using Only Knifey. After consulting my inner hardcore gamer, I decided that I would play on the game's hardest difficulty in order to inflict as much pain as possible on my psyche. I started my pacifist run of Buck Thunder 2 Xenoslaughter, got interrupted by my sister, chose the whitest guy I could, witnessed an alien invasion, and saw my dementia-riddled neighbor get vored by a blob of sentient fried beans. After looting the corpse of one of the aliens, I picked up Kenny, the first gun of the game. Unfortunately, you do not start off the game with Knifey by your side. Instead, he is actually the second weapon that you come across in your journey. That means that we would have to play without shooting until we get to the point where we could acquire Knifey. However, after trying to clear this first encounter without firing my gun, it became readily apparent that I would not be able to proceed without using Kenny. And so, you cannot beat High on Life using Only Knifey. But fret not, my dear viewer. Don't unclench those cheeks just yet. While the average Discord kitten would have given up and called it a day, I am simply built different. By localizing every ounce of cringe in my body to my cerebral cortex, I came up with a new rule. Until I get Knifey, I am allowed to use guns to defeat enemies. With my newfound strength, I was able to break into an alien base, steal their warp core, and teleport my house in the middle of Cyberspunk City, where we found Gene, the bounty hunter. Being the caring and loving man he is, Gene gave me a bounty hunter suit, with the only caveat being, if I die, he gets my house. This guy stared at me for an uncomfortably long time. I was treated to a simulation of watching The Hub without ad block, found the purple guy everyone's been talking about, and finally accepted my first bounty. On my way to the bounty, I was forced to become blue-pilled and cringe, decided to kill Mustard Boy, played a fun game of make-believe with a fisherman, and finally got my hands on my favorite animate object. Now that we had acquired Knifey, the real run could begin. To celebrate this momentous occasion, I decided to give the two nearest people a little taste of what the rest of the run would look like. After stabbing my way through your average Floridian town, I came face to face with Diva from DeviantArt. This was the first real challenge of the run, as anytime I got close to Rule 63 Master Mantis from hit movie Kung Fu Panda, my cheeks would get slapped and my balls would get stepped on. After taking down her health, one stab at a time, I took off the last chunk of it, like I was chowing down on a juicy Wagyu steak. But the fight wasn't done yet, and before she died, she used her ult and got a play of the game.
Play of the game.
No! After once again using her as a cutting board for the next 15 minutes, and this time avoiding her act of martyrdom, I had defeated my first bounty. After collecting proof of my latest triumph, I made a heroic escape down a conveniently placed zipline, where I was confronted by a single courageous ant soldier that forced me to use every trick in the book in order to overcome his overwhelming presence. And with that, I made my way back home to cash in my bounty and give Gene's sweet, succulent nipple a new hole. After turning in the bounty, I unlocked the dodge unit. This would be essential if I wanted to beat the rest of the game using only melee. On my way to pick up the dodge unit, I stopped and took a little well-deserved TV break. I then purchased the dodge unit, but I also wanted to get the slide unit so that I could turn the entire world into the greatest slip and slide under the sun. Though, the horrors of late-stage capitalism prevented my dream from becoming reality. Summoning the primal powers of our tree-bound ape ancestors, I swung around the city, scrounging for any cash I could find. Unfortunately, stealing public property can only get you so far in life, and I still wasn't able to afford the slide upgrade. Feeling defeated and dejected, I returned back to Gene, hoping that I could at least get the satisfaction of plunging my blade into his soft, delectable nips once more. But even that luxury was forced to stay as but a fickle dream. Strapped for cash and lacking any will to live, I decided that I would take on another bounty. This time, we would be hunting down Douglas, and with a name as evil as Douglas, I knew it would be no easy task taking him down. But I also knew that with the power of friendship and my playlist of Phil Swift commercials on repeat, I would be able to come out on top. Not even 5 minutes later, and I was being bored by an Alaskan bullworm. I was forced to play a game of whack-a-mole against a new type of enemy. Alas, halfway through the fight, my gamer reflexes got triggered, and I was forced to reset from the last checkpoint. After killing Link from Monsters vs. Aliens, I ran into the notorious Mac and Cheese Brothers, and once again, tragedy struck. While I was taking a break eating a cold Egg McMuffin sandwich, I had set down my controller. This led to my trigger being pressed, and the demise of the Mac and Cheese Brothers. I, not so immediately, reloaded the last checkpoint, but the damage had already been done, and all that remained of the Mac and Cheese Brothers was one man in a chair. In a fit of what can only be described as a mixture of rage, grief, and repressed sexual desire, I sent the last Mac and Cheese brother to rest alongside his fallen brethren. In what I can also only assume was karma for the sins that I had committed, the game decided to introduce flying enemy types. These enemies would soon become the bane of my existence, and make me contemplate whether or not I should continue on this plane. After doing a little platforming and convincing Old Man Grundy to open the gates, I entered Old Town. But just like any old western town, it had a pest problem. Mustard men were spread all throughout the town, and it was up to me to put them in their place. I cleared out all of the salty boys from the town, entered a nearby saloon, and listened to a song that made my panties soggier than moisty mire.
You know what? This is dog shit.
I rode an elevator down to Dregtown and soon realized that the only way to reach Doug Dimmadong would be to apply for his BDSM RP club. So, I took a golden slime time shower to freshen up and got accepted for the job. As training for the job, I was forced to endure erotic electrostimulation until I just couldn't take it anymore and had to make a daring escape. I ran into Dr. Jupy, who needed me to lay some pipes down for him, to which I happily obliged. I took a ride on the Reading Railroad and laid the smackdown on some starry-eyed G3 recruits, or at least that's what I would like to say. Instead, like a Middle Eastern town in 2016, I spent several minutes getting gunned down by drones and getting fisted by your average American. I became the victim of hit and run crime, and after helping Dr. Jupy with a few more pipe laying sessions, it was revealed that he was actually Douglas Browncheeks the entire time. And after a little bit of flirting and a lot of non-consensual penetration, Space Squidward started to drench me in his black spunk. However, this didn't deter me, and after whittling his health bar down like a poorly made spoon, I took down Douglas and completed the second bounty. After collecting a DNA sample and a new weapon, I was on my way to cash out the bounty when the game decided that it wanted me to try out the latest addition to the cast, and thought that the best way to get me to do that was to put a 20-foot gap between me and where I needed to go. But I wasn't going to give up that easily. After attempting to make the jump, I realized that if I did everything nearly perfectly, I should be able to make it across to the other side and enact vengeance on those who had wronged me. Or, in this case, the two closest individuals to me. After trying and failing several times, I finally made some progress and was able to get one glorious lunge off. However, this activated their AI and caused them to move away from the ledge, making it no longer possible for me to hit them, or so I thought. With that section done, I returned home, and with the rubles I made from Douglas's bounty, I would finally be able to afford to live out my slip inside fantasy. After visiting the version of Thanos that chose Genshin Impact over the Infinity Stones, I was now able to scrape my voluptuous cheeks on the grounds at 30 miles per hour. The urge to stab Jean's nipples almost overtook me once again, but I was able to control myself, for the time being. After gaining my composure, I was now ready to choose my next bounty. With so many options to choose from, I was nearly paralyzed with indecision. In the end, I ended up choosing Krubis as my next big catch. After swinging around the jungle, not dissimilarly to a chimp with a case of the downs, going through a Furby cave, and doing the gritty on the graves of my enemies, I had arrived at Care Bear Village, and expected warm hugs and beautiful rainbows. Instead, all I got was a large hemorrhoid with a side of cringe. Several deaths later, and I had freed the Care Bears from their tyrannical rulers. After talking to Child Toucher Bear, I needed to head to a nearby mansion to acquire a power glove in order to summon Krubis. So I set out back into the jungle of misery, found a double-cheeked up on a Tuesday dump trucked up fallen soldier, and I just had to get in for a closer look. After getting the Infinity Gauntlet, I returned to Carolot and was told that in order to summon Krubis, I must first get the Stone of Constipation. And so once again, I set out, this time into the mines in search of the Kidney Stone. I came across a shop and decided to spend my hard-earned V-Bucks on a brand new volleyball. After convincing a gender-bent Care Bear Joker that I was the new boss and making several morally questionable demands of my workers, I was able to find Krubis' IP address. This wouldn't have happened if he had been using the sponsor of today's video, NordVPN. All that was left was to obtain the Stone of Irritable Bowels and end Drill Bill 37's furry dom roleplay. I then came across some reverse BDSM Care Bears that were kind enough to point me in the direction of the Stone of Explosive Diarrhea. The glorious Prince of the Care Bears held the all-powerful stone that I would need if I wanted to vanquish John Bounty. In order to summon the prince, I sacrificed 4 big meaty men. He was even more handsome in person than the text had foretold. Nothing could prepare me for the radiant energy and beauty that emanated from every fiber of his being. Now armed with the Stone of Eternal Swamp Ass, I was ready to bring the smackdown on Roz from Monsters Inc. And down I did smack, inspired by the greatest Greek sculptors who would spend hours crafting cock and balls of the smallest size. I too would waste 10 minutes of my time delicately removing the life from my least favorite senior citizen. After collecting my sample and picking up my new friend Gus, I returned home and was greeted by a news announcement from Clug Nugget himself, thanking me for my bounty hunting efforts. He had also invited me to interlock hands with him in an effort to get rid of the cartel that had been plaguing this city for so long. I took him up on his offer and made my way over to his office in order to discuss the terms of our new friendship. Nug gave me a new device that would allow me to safely kidnap hairless apes. Coincidentally, the shopkeeper had just got a new jetpack in stock, so I stopped by and picked it up. I slept all the way till Swib's Day, attempted to kill myself with my new jetpack, and started the next paid homicide. I was now tasked with hunting down a dangerous scientist by the name of Dr. Giblets. Looking at his imposing stature and menacing presence, I knew that this would be no easy task. In order to find out what Dr. Gobbletits was hiding, I would have to put my master detective skills to work and interrogate any suspicious individuals I came across. After racially profiling all of the ghouls in the city, I proceeded to pound their brains with questions until they could no longer hold back the information from me. While interrogating my 4th minority, my personal space was violated by the smell of day-old pastrami and a hint of a strawberry Pop-Tart. After watching an episode of Blue's Clues for inspiration, I put together all of my clues and found that they all led me to a nearby ramen shop, where I was informed that I would have to go back to the underbelly of the city and find the High on Life store. I made my way past the spirits of the damned that had infested the sewer, encountered a flashy new enemy type, and was on the verge of death, getting close to my last breath. I beat Thor Bjorgensen in a one-on-one duel to the death, ignored the Geneva suggestions, and had 2 Glamrock Freddies stomp into battle. Oh my, that was loud. After some more expertly done interrogations, I was hustled by Ned Flanders and his hotel chalet attendant. I also found a free pair of Nike Airs that someone had left on a corpse. Now that I had acquired the raw power of a Chinese child sweatshop focused into my 2 fresh kicks, I was invincible. That's our first death in a while. We're gonna die again. Okay. Thank you. Once I was done getting my shit kicked in, I returned home and was greeted once again by Warden and his boyfriend, who took me back to see John Mayer, who gave me the coordinates to where Mr. Gigglepits might be hiding out. I watched a wonderful performance by Joaquin Phoenix before heading back into the jungle of misery in order to take Dr. Wigglesniff's head. At this point, stabbing everyone was starting to get a little bit tiresome. So, taking a page out of Gandhi's book, I avoided violence wherever I could and just ran for the hills. After a little bit of soul searching, I came to the conclusion that violence was the answer after all, when I plunged my blade into the heart of Berenstain Bear. I then found Dr. Gibby's base, and had to once again don the Cape of Justice and Cap of Wisdom in order to figure out what shenanigans had taken afoot here. Once I had finished my investigation, it was finally time for the duel between me and Dr. Pignuts. My balls were quaking, and my cheeks were shaking in anticipation of the fight to come. As I approached the Big D himself, I was... Wow, that was, well, let's collect the sample, I suppose. After gutting Dr. Guts, I was thrust into the real challenge of this section, and by far, the most difficult point of the game, so far. This part of the level was absolute monkey fart AIDS, not only due to a lack of intelligence on my part, but also due to the fact that my knife kept cucking me harder than my wife's boyfriend. You see, the knife's aim assist actually forces you to lunge lower on an enemy's body. So when you face smaller enemies, such as the armored ticks, half of every attack you throw will be directed straight into the ground and completely miss the enemy. This caused me unbelievable frustration.
Bro, it auto locks onto the ground.
Another wave, no problem.
Could this actually be about the
Hit him!
with your wife?
Here we go. This is actually one of my least favorite enemies in the game right now. Next to the ones that burrow, at least for this playthrough, these guys are the most annoying things ever just because of the knife auto lock. Look, if I'm not right in front of them, it just hits the ground.
In the second phase of this fight, you have to RP someone of Jewish faith in 1944 and avoid getting gassed at all costs. There are wall running sections and lids that act as shields that you can stop behind and use as cover. So me, being the hyper giga dumbass I am, didn't realize you can just stand on a wall. I thought you had to constantly be moving while wall running. Spoiler alert, you don't. Once I had figured this out, I was able to finish the Reddit mod Saw Trap with relative ease, and after spending longer than I would like to admit trying to find the exit to the arena, I was finally able to get my hands on my fourth Gatlian. Unfortunately, his mom had been taking a ride on the booze cruise while pregnant, so he was in a little bit of rough shape. This is where I'm supposed to tell you that I returned home and say who my next target would be. Instead, I spent the next 30 minutes wandering around like a lost child in Walmart, looking for the teleporter that would take me home, during which I summoned an entire city just to destroy it with my clown feet. I was once again forced to don my overalls and lay down some pipe, and after all of that, I had somehow came right back to the spot where I had left, and the teleporter...
It was right fucking here! I hate this game. I fucking hate this game. Fuck this stupid ass game.
was sitting there the whole time. You can even see it right here before I leave. After I was finished having a mental breakdown at the new levels of autism I had achieved, I entered the warp portal and returned to my humble abode. I gave Jean the responsibility of motherhood and decided to take a little peek at what my beloved sister was up to. But it seems that while I was out getting lost in the jungle, my sister was getting lost in thirst-trapped TikToks. I decided that I would hit the town and see the sights. While perusing the crime-ridden back alleys of Slim Jim City, I was beckoned to by a mysterious cloaked figure. My persistence had paid off. All of the hardship was worth it. I was finally rewarded for my perseverance. The gallon of fresh alien spunk that the figure bestowed upon me was a symbol of my triumph and a testament to my skill as a bounty hunter. With my vigor restored and my morale at an all-time high, I was ready to take on my next big job. My next bounty would be the Skrendel Brothers. I once again spent an embarrassingly long time figuring out how automatic doors work and almost fell to my death due to a faulty bridge. I was ratted out to the feds by the Care Bear who laughs, forced to do an obligatory elevator section that took me longer than it should have, and made myself a smoothie. This wonderful guy was added to my cast of colorful characters, and I was now able to weaponize child labor in the pursuit of my own interests. Unfortunately, I was forced to use my guns to see mind control ability on an enemy in order to progress further in the stage. There were some hairless apes trapped inside some cages. I ignored them. The drip master himself, John, decided to introduce me to the dangers of secondhand smoking. But after I sternly told him no, he retreated back to his den. The next brother decided that they would play hard to get and kept running from me, but after eventually winning our little game of cat and mouse, our battle ensued. After enduring several minutes of this man smacking me into air and shooting his shot all over me, I was able to force his retreat. All that was left was to fight the final Skrendel bro, Mona, and this guy was no pushover. His special ability was to turn the entire arena into his own personal cum sock, and he was goddamn good at it. So good at it, in fact, that he decided that he was done doing anything else. With his mobility severely limited due to his constant fellatio, he was an easy target for me to take down. And with that, I'd beaten all of the... Oh god fucking damn it. I know I described the arena section as, quote, monkey fart AIDS, but in comparison to the non-consensual goopy enema fisting I was about to receive, the arena might as well have been heaven. This unholy abomination used all 3 Skrendel abilities at once, and even had his own tornado move on top of that. Another gimmick of this boss fight is that after depleting Brotron's health bar, the brothers will split up. However, none of the damage done during the Brotron phase is actually transferred, so if you do no damage when they're split up, you go back to square one when they reassemble. On top of this, you may recall how I mentioned that on certain enemies, the knife's auto assist will force your blade into the ground. Can you guess where this is going? If not, scroll down to the comment section and have someone else explain it to you, because I'm not going to. This boss fight tested the limits of not only my masochism, but also my sanity. The biggest issue was the gunk that would end up covering more and more of the arena over time during the boss fight. After even one phase, the entire floor of the arena would get covered to the point where I could no longer land to recharge my fuel. Luckily for me, for whatever reason, there was a chance that he would just get stuck in his roll animation, allowing me a chance to breathe and clear the gunk from the arena. I had thought that if I cleared the arena when he was stuck, that would make the next phase easier. So I spent the next 20 minutes slowly stabbing the goop off of the ground. Little by little, step by step, I cleaned the arena and made it good as new. This was the arena 5 minutes later. However, there was one way to easily clean up the goop, and that was to shoot it. Due to the circumstances that I had found myself under, I decided to make the executive decision that as long as I didn't damage the boss with the gun, shooting the goop would be allowed in this fight. Though, even with this buff for the next 30 minutes, I still made 0 progress. Even though I consistently defeated the first phase, I still wasn't able to land any hits in the second due to the constant gangbanging that I was on the receiving end of. So, with a heavy heart and my gamer pride torn to pieces all over the slime-stained floor, I did the unthinkable and turned down the difficulty to normal. But even after this, the boss fight was no walk in the park, and after struggling for another 30 minutes, I had done it. My mission was complete, and after bathing in the green glow of victory, I did the thing, then went to the place, and did the other thing. Jean told me how my sister had been missing, and that I would have to look for clues at a nearby Applebee's in the slums. After arriving at said Applebee's and not finding any lead, Kenny decided that he needed to tell me something important, so we both took a seat. Kenny started talking. I ordered a Captain Bahama Mama. Kenny continued talking. I ordered a chicken quesadilla. Kenny was still talking. I ordered a pepper-covered sirloin. Lenny wouldn't stop talking. Unfortunately, before I could even start my meal, my sister rudely interrupted me by getting kidnapped outside of the Applebee's. I realized I forgot my wallet at home and had to make a break for my house while Applebee's security chased me down. Since I had now led the Applebee's feds straight to our house, we were forced to flee the country and move to Detroit. With my sister still kidnapped and the risk of home invasion high, there was no better time to catch some Z's. After waking up, we went and picked up our sister Glizzy from this RV. With our sister rescued, we could focus on bounty hunting once again. Our next bounty would be the regional manager of Applebee's, Nipulon. I enjoyed another goopy golden shower, snuck into John Nipple's lair, and proceeded to... Yeah, we're gonna have to blur that. I went postal and blew my cover, got my cheeks violated, and once again came face to face with Barney's persona. She told me that Nipplebomb would see me shortly, so I took a seat on a nice leather couch and was waiting patiently when Helen dropped an absolute gutbuster.
Oh, don't mind me. I love overhearing stuff. I call it the Erie Canal.
I came face to face with Nipple-chan and got up real nice and personal with him. He drugged me, and I had to face him inside of the kaleidoscope realm. After trying to hit our keratinous boy with my 5-inch stick over and over, I was about to give up hope of this knife-only run. But then it happened. I was able to hit him once, then twice, then thrice, and I was able to finish the phase using only my knife. What happened next still haunts me to this day.
Need some motivation to keep going? How about an award? Here, take this one that says you spent all your in-game playtime at an alien. Oh, that's permanent, by the way. Everyone on your friends list can see that forever now.
He had gone too far, and now I was mad. But that wasn't enough for the heartless creature that stood before me, as he had made my worst nightmare come true. And due to an invisible wall that was oddly shaped like Squidward's head, I was unable to finish this fight using only my knife. So with a reluctant heart and empty testicles, I was forced to use my weapons to get past this phase. Filled with the fury of a Discord mod that just realized the 5-year-old child they'd been calling their kitten was in fact a 42-year-old Chinese immigrant, I made my way through the clones of Mustafar and ended a bug's life early. I did the thing that I always do and went to the place I always go. Our last and final objective would be to end the life of the CEO of Applebee's, Nikado Avocado. Jean gave me a remote atomizer bomb for, well, you'll see. And with our goodbyes said, I started to make my way through the hordes of minimum wage Applebee's employees that Nick would send our way. Funny thing about this section of the game, it was actually specifically designed for the player to be able to go wild with a weapon that is essentially the BFG from Doom, but with unlimited ammo. So what would have taken me a few minutes to get through in a normal playthrough, instead turned into over half an hour of me picking off one enemy at a time and retreating to cover to let my health get restored. But eventually, I got through it and came face to face with the CEO of Applebee's and the patron saint of mukbangs himself, Nikado Avocado. This was it, the final battle. It was do or die, and I chose. Wait, stop it, stop, I'm not done. I'm not fucking done. Let me finish. 'Dude, chill the fuck out. No! You piece of shit. Oh, we're back. A measly 5.5 hours later, I destroyed his mobility scooter and gave the Taki champion his daily prescribed fisting. Oh, and I suppose this phase happened too, I guess. It really wasn't that interesting. After he unwillingly volunteered as tribute, I shoved Let's Do It into the Mukbang Warrior's gaping orifice. Don't worry, Let's Do It. We won't forget your sacrifice. May you rest in... never mind then. And with the CEO of Applebee's defeated, and my right stick looser than your average JoJo fan, I did not beat high on life using ONLY Knifey. Hey there, cutie patootie. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. But I can't help but notice that you haven't hit the subscribe button yet. Why not, huh? Am I not good enough? Hit the fucking button! Hit it! Hit it! Hit it! Hit it!
We saved the human race, our dreams came true. Well, it was only you and me, but we stopped the whole G